Hello again. As promised, this section is about the products that are available from flyingwithoutfear.com. The first thing I'd like to mention is our extensive website. This is free of charge and has an enormous number of pages of information, advice, tips, guidance about overcoming your fear. The social network, Logbook 24/7, is there to help you chat with other people who have similar feelings about flying. They share successes, they share the setbacks that people have, but most of all they get support, encouragement and advice from people who feel like they do. I do have administrative control over it because we've had a couple of strange people who think that putting scare stories on such a forum actually helps people. Well, all it does is help to entertain those people, not entertain or assist the people who have a fear. So that's the only reason that I ask you to register. A few years ago I was telephoned by someone from the place where my wife was working at the time to answer a few questions about flying because they were anxious and they were about to go on holiday. The long and the short of this encounter was that this book was produced. It answers the questions that fearful flyers ask, not the sorts of questions that I think should be answered, but these are from actual people who asked me questions that they needed to have answered. We've enjoyed tremendous success with this book. We've, at this moment, sold over 12,000 copies of it, and it is the #1 bestseller on Amazon, has been since publication in 2003. Our nearest rival of the same name, which is a much bigger brand than we could ever hope to be, is some 95,000 places lower in the Amazon ratings than this book is. So I heartily recommend this one. At the Fear of Flying conference in Montreal, which I mentioned on the opening clip, I met a very talented and very clever doctor, Dr. Alison Smith, who practices in Australia. I was able to persuade her to write a companion volume to Flying Without Fear. We now call volume 1, my book, The Facts, and we call Alison's book, The Psychology. This is a very clever book. It answers questions and it gives guidance as to how to prepare and the feelings that you get when you're anxious about flying. It's hard-hitting, it's direct, and it's invaluable. There's no spare waffle in this book. It deals with the facts as they are and is very, very powerful in persuading you about the right things to do. It's very easy when you have a fear of flying to drift off into bad thoughts or wishful thinking, as Alison calls it. But this book will really keep you on the rails with regard to dealing with your thoughts about the fear of flying. It occurred to me from the people that we talked to after the course that there was a need for another book, Motivations and Strategies, which I subsequently wrote. People say to me, how do I stay on track? How do I maintain my enthusiasm to overcome my fear? How can I stop those unhelpful thoughts that come into my head? Well, all of that is covered in this third volume of Flying Without Fear. It seems to me, though, that the feedback that I've had so far says that the best bit of this book is the piece that I didn't write. It's the stuff written by people who are anxious about flying, or were anxious about flying, and the tips and strategies and the thoughts that they had while they were overcoming their fear. So those 3 companion volumes form a complete course. The Facts, the Psychology, Motivations and Strategies. Now, as a result of producing my first book, I was encouraged to prepare this CD version, not exactly of the book, but of the sorts of things about aviation that fearful flyers would want to know about. Well, in these 4 volumes, these 4 CDs, there is a wealth of information. One of the popular tracks is, of course, about turbulence. Another popular track is where I commentate from the flight deck of an aeroplane, a Boeing 737, during the takeoff, because a large number of people find takeoff particularly scary, and so we address that particular issue. There's calming music on there, which has been written for a major airline, which we are now able to use with the permission of the author. So I do recommend that if you want something in addition to the books, maybe something that you can play in the car, play on your iPod, maybe when you're in flight, the CD set is the perfect course for you. Now, I was lucky enough to be approached by a video production company who were interested in the work that I did. They asked me if they could follow me on a course and then on a subsequent flight that we arranged for the people on the course. It's covered in this DVD. It's very interesting because not only does it give you information that you need as a fearful flyer, but it also tells you about the way people behave when they take their flight after the course, when they've spent a lifetime perhaps of being fearful about flying, they've done something about it, and now here is the evidence of how it unfolds for them. It gives me great pleasure to watch this video and to see and follow the careers, such as they are, of the people that star on this. I know that at least 3 of them have been pretty well around the world, and the others have taken shorter trips within Europe. Once again, it's the answer we get from the people here, I did it, that is most gratifying to me and the team that work with me. So that's the DVD. Another product that we have is this useful guide, which, as you see, fits neatly into my pocket or into your handbag. And this is a sort of abbreviated form of all these things combined, so that if you are travelling, or when you are travelling, I should say, you get those feelings of anxiety, you can just refer to this book and say, well, hang on, what are the facts about this? Oh yes, there they are. And find this reassuring. That's why we've called it Remember, Relax, and Go Flying Without Fear. Full of hints and tips that will actually work for you when you are travelling. Finally then, the last product we have is an audio course which covers your fear of flying. Now then, this course goes from the strategies in the beginning, a little bit of background, all the sorts of things that happen in your mind, the sorts of things you can do to stem your negative thoughts about flying, and how you can turn them into realistic things that you can do. Now, how did I come about making that audio course? Well, someone said to me leaving here one day, this needs to be available. Well, clearly, because we give demonstrations and we show videos on the course here, that isn't so easy to do on a sort of ad hoc basis. But what I did was to gather the main points of what happens on this course and combine them into a logical course which is available on that audio course. That is downloadable from flyingwithoutfear.com, and we send you a backup disc as well. This can be easily loaded onto your iPod or whatever MP3 player you have. So I hope that helps you and encourages you that if you don't like one sort of help, then maybe another sort of help will be more convenient to you, because we all see things differently. Some of us are empowered by the written word, some by visual, some by the spoken word, and so that's why we do it. But none of those products that I've just mentioned are exclusive of each other. They cover different sorts of aspects and different sorts of information that you need as a fearful flyer. You can look at these products in more detail on the website flyingwithoutfear.com, and it's a very simple process to buy them. We have an e-commerce shop which will it's a one or two click process to buy what you need. I'm always available on the telephone if you want to discuss them to see which would suit you best. Thank you for listening to this part of the tape. The next part is about taking off and about turbulence, just to give you a taster of the way we deal with that on the course here. So thank you for listening to this piece, and I'll see you maybe on the next section.